this is Carrie Canary Quilts, and we're on week 25 of the Dear Jane Quilt Along. And look at this color chart. We are filling this quilt in. This week is going to be interesting. One of these blocks, if you've been working in EQ8, you know that there are variations to these center blocks. On a lot of them, there are variations. They have, say, a pieced variation or an applique variation. So you can choose how you want to put the block together. I have made some modifications on these blocks to make them a little bit easier. Most of the time it's been Y seams. I've done a few applique where I modified the applique version. But this week we have a very interesting block to look at. So I will get to that in a minute. But before we get started on our blocks, I want to show you what I want to show you the blocks that we're doing this week, and I want to fill in my color chart. So if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you can go on this journey with us, or you can do all the other fun stuff we got going on this channel. Anyway, let's populate my color chart before we get to the individual blocks. First block I am calling C6 modified to applique. So C6 is going right there. Oh, here's my colors. I have kind of different colors in here. I don't really have a color scheme. So just to let you know, a couple weeks ago, I went through how to do like the scallop borders, the sashing, these triangles that go in between the border blocks. And I cut all my triangles for the border and I cut them in 5s. And so I had these stacks of 5 batiks that I was just grabbing and using. So I'm just using those for these blocks. So that's how I came up with this color scheme this week. Anyway, next block is D10 and then F3, which is Snowball. D10 was Battlefield and C6 was actually called Ashley's Aura. So next is L6, Maze of Madness. And then RS12, Linda's Church in the Valley. So we need to rotate that. And there's our color chart really starting to get filled in here. So I'm going to start on C6 because that's the one that I modified. All right, here is C6 from the Dear Jane Quilt add-on. And there actually is no variation of this. This is what it looks like. It's pieced together. This is a 4.5-inch block, and I do not want to do that many curves. I just don't think I'm personally good enough at it. What I want to do is I want to applique this block. So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to cut a 5-inch dark background, the background that you see here, and then I'm going to draw in just these appliques, and I'm going to make 4 of these. So it will visually look the same because I don't want to piece this. So what we have to do is we have to redraw this block. So I'm going to show you how to redraw this block, and I'm going to show you how to turn it into an applique. So what I want to do is I want to go over to New Block up here in the left-hand corner. I want to choose Pieced and Applique. And then I'm going to choose Easy plus Applique right here. All right. So down here on the bottom, these tabs down here says Easy Draw and it says Applique. First thing we need to do is draw this block out again. So we need an arc. And when I looked at this block, it was just slightly to the left of this 2-inch mark. I'm going to go to 2 inches. I just need the applique, and they're all going to be the same. So I'm going to go from 2-inch. And I'm going to start going down, and that's not the way I want my arc to go. So I'm going to hit the space bar, and it's going to turn it. So I want to come down to this 2. This is a 1/2 inch wide. I looked at the pattern. And so I'm going to start at the 1/2 inch. I need to hit my space bar, change the way my arc's going, and you can see I came down to 2 inches down here. So we want to mirror this down here. So I want to come down here and come to my 2-inch mark, and my arc's going the right way, and I'm going to come up to the 2.5. And then same thing down here. I need to hit the space bar, change the direction of my arc, and bring it over here. That is the center that we've redrawn. Now, remember it had these sections here. So we want to go from this dot right here and bring our arc down to this dot right there. That's what I want to do. So let's go back to my line or my arc, and I'm working with nodes here. So I'm going to start here. My arc's not going the right way. Hit space bar, bring it down to here. So you can see that we've crossed paths here, but it's because I want to go past it so that I can then draw it. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. Arc's going wrong, sideway, hit the space bar, bring it down here. And again, mirror this and mirror this. All right, there we go. That's basically what we want, so that now we can go to applique. You can see my lines are in the background, and we can start drawing these pieces out. So I want to start drawing, and I'm just drawing right now, this piece right there. So I'm going to zoom in so I can see it better. I want to go to Bezier curve, drag to draw a smooth curve, it says right here. And I'm looking over here on the left. So I'm going to start here. And I'm just going to try to follow this line the best I can. And I'm going to stop up there. All right. Doesn't look good, but we can edit it. So I'm going to go up here to the left and hit edit, and I'm going to choose that line, and you can see we got these handlebars here that we can work with. So, and they move up and down, and they move back and forth. So I'm going to move this until it hits that line there, and then let's see what happens when I do this. There we go. I shorten this up. You just have to like move back and forth and work with it. All right. That looks pretty good to me. So I want to draw again this way. So I'm going to start up here where I was at. I'm on my Bezier curve option, and I'm going to pull it down along here. And again, doesn't look good, but you can see it filled it in. Go back to edit, grab that line, and start working with your handlebars and get it out so that it fits on that line. Where is that line? It's hard to see once you're in here. And I think that looks pretty good right there. What do you think? So that's the piece we want to use for all 4 pieces here. Let's zoom back out. Let's pick this one. Let's clone it. Let's rotate it 90 degrees and bring it over here. Then let's do this one. Let's clone it. Let's rotate it 90 degrees and bring it down here. And this is just so we can color this in. And then clone this one, rotate it 90 degrees, and bring it over here. So that's what my block will look like with an applique. And this is going to be way easier to do and gives you the exact same look than the piecing. I am really surprised there was not an applique variation for this. It really surprised me. So that's how I'm doing it. That's how I drew out my applique. We can come back here now to draw, come back to our easy draw, and we can literally just take our lines out. And we will just have applique left, which is what I want. So in the end, I'm going to have a 5-inch background block that's a color, and then these 4 applique pieces, which will be my white pieces, and it will give me the same look as the pieced block. So when we print, we can go over to templates, and there we go. There's our templates for this block. All right, that's how I did C6 modified to applique is what I'm calling it. You can color it in. So background is just going to be, I don't know, it'll be this, and then the other will be white. So that's what it's going to look like. That's what the other block looked like. So I'm happy with this. Let me know what you're doing. If you are going to modify it to applique, what do you think of EQ8 not putting this variation in? That was really surprising. Let me know if you're piecing this. I'd love to know. All right, let's move on to the next blocks. All right, for D10 Battlefield, you actually have future carry here because I put the block together. And one thing I didn't realize with the foundation paper piece was that there were Y seams. So I'm coming back here to let you, or to show you how to change your sections so you just have a 4 patch in the middle and not a bunch of Y seams like I had. So I have D10 up here. I'm going to go to print and export and take a look at the foundation paper pieces. And right here and right here, we're going to have Y seams because of the way the EQ8 has sectioned this. I am going to resection this so that it's a 4 patch. These half square triangles are each going to make a patch, and then these are going to be square and square 4 patches. So let me show you how to do that. I will hit the box that says I want to section and number myself, and then hit start over. All right, I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm going to make these 4 pieces a section. That is going to be a section of half square triangles, and then right next to it, I'm going to make that a section, and I'm going to hit group. I'm going to come down to the opposite corner and do the exact same thing with these half square triangles. So there's 4 sections. You'll be able to put them together to make a patch that's going to go into this 4 patch. So the next sections are going to be these squares in a square. So I'm going to hit those and group, and then hit these and group. So that's the biggest thing right here, is now we don't have the Y seams that you saw before. You can put the 2 half square triangle units together to make a patch in each corner, and then you'll have a 4 patch to put together. So I'm going to go out to the left here, and I'm going to put these 2 together because they're the exact same size, and I'm going to hit group. And then around the rest of this, I need to group these single sections like that. And then this one to the far right is a single. Now we have the top and bottom rows, or sashing, border, whatever you want to call it. So now we need to group all of that together. So group it and group it. So that's a better way, I feel, to put this block together. I did do Y seams on this because I had already put a bunch of work into this and I didn't want to do it over. So, but I'm coming back here to show you how to resection it so that you don't have to do those Y seams. All right, so we need to go over and number ourselves. EQ8 did number it really well. We just need to put them in, and I'm just clicking inside of these, inside the sections. The square and a square, I always start in the middle, so I'm going to click there first for E1 and then go around the sides. And EQ8 did that also, so I don't need to change anything. You don't need to go in order. You just need to click inside each section. So there we go. I wanted to show you how to resection it so that you don't have Y seams. So that's why you got future carry here. And I want to show you what it's going to look like now. So it looks a lot better. You'll see in my video, I will not have these same shapes. I will have more difficult shapes. So this is much easier to do. All right, let's go on to the next blocks. F3 Snowball. That's going to be not too hard. 3 sections. So, yep, that's going to be an easy one. I mean, after doing all that EQ8 stuff, that can drain your brain, but you know, it's not going to be too hard once you put that applique block together and put these blocks together. Okay, next block is L6 Maze of Madness. Yeah, it does look like a Maze of Madness. Let's take a look at the foundation paper piece. Yeah, look at that. The squares are all their own. We've got the center sections, the middle section, border it out. So, yep. Put all your borders over here on the second page and leave your other pieces on that page. And even though we have a lot of pieces, it'll be fun. It will be fun. Look at all those tiny little pieces. I love paper piecing those tiny little pieces. It looks so good. So there you go, L6 Maze of Madness. And finally, we have R12 Linda's Church in the Valley. That looks like a lot of lines. Let's take a look at the foundation paper piece. It's pretty much row by row. So that bottom row has 3 sections to it, but I really think that's going to be fun to put together. But anyway, there you go. There's all our blocks. We can start putting these together. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and we'll have fun together. And let's get started. All right, to get started on week 25 of the Dear Jane Quilt Along, I'm going to start with C6, and this is a modified applique for me. I did not want to sew these inside of here, so I went into EQ8 and I modified it so that these pieces will be appliqued onto the back of my square. There was no variation available for this in EQ8, so that's why I did that. Anyway, what we need to do, well, first thing, I have my pieces drawn out onto my fusible web, and I used the solid line on my template to do that. I have cut my square background to 5 inches so that when it's finished, it'll be 4.5 inches. What we need to do is figure out where do these pieces go so that it looks like this. When I drew this out, my pieces were 1/2 inch from the top and 1/4 inch in from the center. But that was for a 4.5 inch block, so we need to add 1/4 inch here. So we're actually going to come down 3/4 inch to this point right there. And I wrote that over here. And 1/4 inch in from the center, and you can just do you can press your seams to give you your centers, which is what I've done. It's hard to see on my block, but if I come in here, you can see I put white marks where my seams, my creases. I put white marks here where my creases are. So what I want to do is take my ruler, and I'm going to put it at 1/4 inch, or I'm going to put the 1/4 inch line on my ruler on that crease. And then I'm going to come down 3/4 inch and make my mark, which I did right there. Did the same thing down here, 3/4 inch down here, and then I just move it over, put the 1/4 inch on my crease, mark my 3/4 inch here and here. And then I want to do the same thing on this side. So let's put our 1/4 inch on my crease, mark 3/4 inch down, 3/4 of an inch down, just move it over. Do the same thing. So you can see my marks here, and here, and here, and here. So what that means is, oh, the other thing I want to make sure you notice is that these curves on here are slightly different. So the one that has more of a curve is the top, and then the flatter part is the bottom. So if you need to mark it, you can. But this is what I want to do. I want to make sure the point of my piece is right here on that point, and it's right there on that point. And I'm going to do the same thing with this piece, and this piece, and this piece. So I'm going to get them all cut out, and I'm going to get them laid out like that, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, I haven't fused my pieces down, but this is where they go. So my points will line up with each one of these points that I made. So let me know if you find a different way to do it. That's how I'm doing it. It's going to look just like that. And I'm going to be happy with it because I didn't have to sew all those curves in. There we go. There's my C6 modified applique, and I'm going to be appliquing all of my pieces at the end when I get done with all my blocks. All right, next is D10 Battlefield. This is what Jane Stickles looks like. And if you were not paper piecing this, you'd have 2 4 patches of half square triangles and 2 4 patches of square and a square. And then some really tiny half square triangles in the corners, which you can see are over here in this one. To go through my pieces here, I have got my dark pieces, my long pieces are on the outside. And then my white pieces are these interior white strips. These white squares are the 2 in here. The larger triangles are in here in the center, and then the smaller triangles are what's on the outside for those tiny half square triangles. And the same with the dark triangles. The larger ones are in the interior, and then the smaller ones are out here. So I think the square and a square, what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to show it, but what I'm doing is I'm changing, EQ8 had number 1 out here and number 2 in here, and I'm changing the center to 1 and the outside to 2. I'm going to do that. And then this one, I don't think these are very hard to put together. They'll be put together exactly the same as these. So what I'll do is I'll put together this one because it's got that long strip, and then these 2 are put together just like these are in here. So let's do that strip right there. We're starting in 1 2 over here, so I'm just going to take a white and a dark. I'm going to put them together. And number 1 is a dark, so I'm going to lay it down so it's 1/4 of an inch over my line between 1 and 2. It's off the paper everywhere, so it'll fit there. And now I can iron, or not iron, I can sew right here between A1 and A2. There's my first 2 pieces. Now we want to trim for 3, which we're going to do on that tiny little line right there. Now I want to take my long strip. Let's see, I got to do it this way. And I just want to make sure that my edges, my fabric comes off the paper. And now we can sew on this little line right here between A2 and A3. Here's my 3rd piece, and we can come all the way over here between A3 and A4 and trim. And now I need a white, 4 is white, and it's going to be oriented like that. So let's flip it over. I'm just going to line it up with this fabric right there. And then we can sew on the line between A3 and A4. There's my fourth piece. We're going to go on this side and trim between A4 and A5, that tiny little line. And add our last triangle. And it's hard to see, but the triangle will go on like that. So we'll flip it over and line it up over here. And sew on the line between A4 and A5. And then I'm going to get everything trimmed up and we'll put the puzzle together. What I am doing is I've got the numbering section pulled up on my EQ8 under the print menu. And that's what I'm going to use to figure out where to lay all these out. So this is C. I'm going to put that up there. G. Let's just turn. There's our 4-patch half square triangles in the corners and our 4-patch, which is going to get made in each of these corners. I'm going to put these on next. I'm going to assemble this first. And then, all right, didn't see this coming. We have Y seams here and here. I think what I'm going to do is go back to EQ8, redo my video so that there's no Y seams. All you have to do is renumber. So I would renumber it so that these 3 pieces here, or resection, these 3 pieces here end up in this section. So then you'd have 2 of these and 2 of these. Didn't notice that with all the numbers going on. So then all that would do would give you a 4-patch to put together, which I don't have here, and this took a lot of work, so I'm going to do the Y seams, but I'm going to go back and show you how to do it so that there's no Y seams, and it's just resectioning these pieces. All right, let me get this put together. There's my center with my Y seams. If you followed how to resection this in the EQ8 before I got here, then you should have a 4-patch to put in here. I missed that the first time when I printed this, and I sewed it all together before I noticed it. All right, this is how it's going together. We have a short white piece that needs to go on our center, and then we have 2 white pieces that will go on the opposite ends here, and then we can put this one on. And then we'll come back over and put this one on, and these are our longest pieces. Those will go on last. I think I will iron towards these strips. I'll let you know if I do something different, but I think I'm just going to start ironing out as I put it together. All right, there we go. There's D10 Battlefield. Fun to put together till I ran into Y seams, but hopefully you don't run into the Y seams. You should just have a 4-patch in the middle. So let me know if you did the 4-patch version. Next up is F3 Snowball, and this one is easy. I just, in the last block, showed you how to put this exact piece together, and for the most part, how to put this piece together. So I'm not going to demonstrate anything here. I am changing this middle piece to the first one and this one to the second one. EQ8 made this the first and this the second, and I'm swapping these out. So what I think I'll do is I'll show you how I start this piece, and then that's it, because I just showed you how to do that piece on the last block. So here's my pieces. This is my middle blue. The triangles are here on the outside, the dark ones. The white rectangles are right here. And then our white triangles go in the corners in the middle. All right, I'll start this one for you. Put these 2 pieces together exactly like the last block. I have put these 2 longer seams in because that's where I want to line this up. I want to just make sure everything's covered. The seams where I drew the lines are covered. I'm off the paper, so those seam allowances are covered. I'm going to put my pin right in the middle. And I'm going to turn it over, and since none of these seams cross, I'm going to trim them up right now, all 4 of them. And then I can sew all 4 of them on at the same time. There we go. Got it trimmed up. Now all I need to do is add my triangles, and I can do them all 4 at the same time. I'm just going to line up this corner with this corner. So on this line, repeat for the other 4, and then I'm going to add the 2 here on the 2 strips on the outside. My 4 pieces sewn on before I iron them. Just wanted to show you what it looks like and that you can do all 4 at one time. All right, there's my 3 completed sections. All we have to do is add these 2 sides on and we'll be done. And I think I might iron towards, I think I might iron it open actually, now that I think about it. See how that goes. There we go, F3 Snowball. Not too hard to put together, so yeah, I like it. My dirty Snowball. Although hers is dark too. Next up is L6 Maze of Madness. This is what we're working towards. This is our paper piece for the inside, and then we have 2 borders on the outside. That's the back piece. So this shouldn't be too hard. This probably will be the most tedious one to do, but it's all rectangles and makes it easy when it's rectangles. My pieces are, these long pieces are for my border in the back for the white and the dark up here. And then these 2 pieces, these 2 really small pieces, are these 2 rectangles and squares inside of here, and then these pieces are all the other white rectangles you see. Over here on the dark, this 1 piece is in here. This square is the little dark square inside of here, and then this square is the next square you see inside of here. And then all these pieces are all the other pieces on here, like this piece and these pieces in the corner or in the sides here. So you can find my cut pieces on my website, and that is that link is down in the description below this video if you like the cut pieces that I use. All right, let me get set up to do one of these corner pieces. As I've been doing, I'm putting all my pieces together. These are the single pieces where I just kind of sew the paper piece onto these. These are the corners that I'm going to be working on. I've gotten those done. And then I got the center done. And then these other pieces. So these are the pieces I need for this. And I drew out my seam lines. So I'm going to start with a white right here in number 1 and a dark in number 2. And then we're going to go across here 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1 and 2 are the 2 little squares we have. Number 1 is our light color. So I'm just going to place it over 1, and 2 is about 1/4 of an inch big right here. So I'm just going to put it up against the other side of 2. Right on the line right here. I'm going to butt my fabric up against that. I'm going to sew right here, lock stitching at both ends on that tiny little seam. There's my first 2 pieces. You need to be a little careful handling it because this seam's so small that it gets a little squirrely and actually could come out of the paper. So just be careful till you get the next piece. So we want to go to 3 right here and fold it back and trim it, and we're going to take our square dark, whoops, nope, 3, I was looking at 4. 3 is a light, our small light rectangle, and that's about 1/4 of an inch again. See, so there's 3. We're going to lay down our white rectangle, which we have plenty of space on each side, and then we're going to sew between A1, A2, and A3 right here and lock stitch at each end. First 3 pieces are on. Let's turn it over. Go and fold it on the line between A3 and A4 right here and trim it up. And now I want to grab my square, my bigger square,
So we're putting it on 4. It's plenty big. It's going to be outside both these lines. So let's now sew between A3 and A4, lock stitch at both ends. There's my first 4 pieces. So now we want to go and trim below A5, which in this case is a dark piece. Take one of my dark rectangles, and I have 2. I only need 1. And make sure it's 1/4 of an inch. Well, you could just line it up over here. 1/4 of an inch past this line, and we're off the paper. So we want to sew here, right here, and you can lock stitch at this point and then come right off out into the seam allowance here. There's my 5th piece. So turn it over. 6 is down here on the opposite end of 5. And so let's fold that over. We can trim. Grab a white rectangle. I'll just extend this line out so we can see it. There we go. Let's line this up so we're past that line by more than 1/4 of an inch and we're off the paper. So here through the seam allowance and then lock stitch at the end of this line. And we're slowly starting to close in this little square, 2 squares right here. Last piece is 7. So 7 goes all the way across, trim it up. Grab a white rectangle, and it goes off the paper on both sides. So now we can sew just right along here next to A7 all the way through the seam allowances. There's the finished piece. I am going to get everything trimmed up, and then we will come and back and put it together, which I don't think is going to be too hard to puzzle piece together. I got all my pieces trimmed up. Here's all my border pieces. I'm going to put those on in a minute, but this is how it gets laid out. It's pretty simple. You want to make sure that your white strips here are pointing towards the center of our block. And then these only fit this way. And then this is only going to fit this way. So that's how it's going to go together. We're going to put our 2 strips together here, and then we're going to add it to this piece. I think I will iron my pieces open. See how that goes. There's my center. This is what I love about paper piecing. You can do intricate little pieces like this. Anyway, I ironed in the rows, I ironed it open, but then I ironed towards the center piece. It felt flatter when I did that. So when I put these 2 rows on, I ironed towards this piece right here. All right, so next is the borders. So we have a short border, which is going to go on first, then these 2 medium borders will go on, and then this long one will go on, and I am going to iron towards these borders. And I suspect the same thing is with these. We're going to have a short, we're going to have 2 mediums, and a long. And I will iron towards these. L6 Maze of Madness. There is a lot of seams in that block, but is it a cool looking block? I can't imagine piecing this block. I am so glad that there is a paper piece, foundation paper piece method for this. But that is a cool looking block. All right, let's get started on RS12, Linda's Church in the Valley. This is our border block, and this is what it's going to look like. I don't have a lot of cut pieces here. They're kind of all over the place. So you can find my cut pieces on my website. The link is down below. So I'm not really going to go through these. I will have them listed out where I use them. But one thing I want to say is for C1, I took a 2.5 inch square and I cut it in half because we only need 1 of those halves for a triangle. But then I cut the other half in half for these 2, the C6 and C7, these tiny little triangles right here. So that's what I mean. If you use my cut pieces and I say to cut the other half in half, that's what we're going for, is these 2 little pieces. So you don't have to cut a couple squares and do that. The other half of C1 can be used for C6 and C7. So, I mean, like the triangles, you can see there's triangles here. I think that goes there. But like I said, I will have them listed out where I use them. And if I find that they're not working for me, I will adjust them before I give them out to you. I say, let's do this piece because it will be similar to other pieces. So I will get prepared to demonstrate this piece right here. Before I get to this piece, which I was going to demonstrate, I want to start this piece. Sometimes these can be a little more difficult. I cut a square to start with. I marked the point for the first piece. That's coverage that we need to have for this piece. And I'm off the paper down here. I have coverage up there. I put a little stitch in down here in the paper to hold my piece in place because I need to trim this before I can put my second piece on. So it's held in place by the stitch, so I can fold it, I can trim it, and now I can line up my piece on here and sew it on. So now I can sew right there. So I just wanted to start that piece for you before I got to this one. All the other pieces I got done. They were pretty easy to put together. They are actually very similar to that. That one's probably more complicated than any of them. So there you go. And then I sewed my squares onto these single pieces. Here's the piece I'm going to demonstrate. These are the only cut pieces I need for this one. You can see we start with the dark triangle and then we move to 2 white strips. It has us going over here and finishing this side and then finishing this side with 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can go 4, 5, 6, 7 if you want to. It's up to you. It does not matter. I kind of like to finish out insides before I get to the outsides, but I think that's what I'll do. I think I'll go 4 and then 5 and then 6 and then 7. So you don't have to do that. I've got it written out over here in the way it was there, so I'm going to change this to 5, 6, and 7. Our first piece goes right here, and it is a dark triangle. So, and here's our second piece. So I'm going to lay it so it's about 1/4 of an inch past our second line between 1 and 2 right here. It's off the page. It's well over the next seam. So I need to add one of these white strips. And here's the seam line we need coverage at, and we're off the paper. So we want to sew on the line between D1 and D2, lock stitch right there at that point. There's my first 2 pieces. I have gone ahead and trimmed for D3. So now we can just take another white strip. We want to line it up so that here's the outside of this seam allowance, the outside of this seam allowance, which is off the paper anyway, so we're looking good here. So now we can sew on the line from here, lock stitch right there, out to here. There we go, my first 3 pieces. Now I'm moving over to 4, which is a blue triangle. I trimmed my 1/4 of an inch. My triangle needs to be oriented like this. So we'll just flip it over. I'm going to just kind of eyeball my point here with my point up here. Scooch it over a little bit. And then we can sew on the line now between D3 and D4 all the way through. First 4 pieces are on, and remember I changed my order. So my 5th piece is now going to be this blue triangle, but if you're not changing the order, your 5th piece would be this white piece. And I have trimmed for my piece, which is a blue triangle. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Line my points up here, and then you can do exactly the same thing. Sew on the line here. There's the pieces so far. my 5 pieces, and now I'm ready to put 6 and 7 on at the same time. Since they're on opposite sides, they don't come anywhere near each other, I'm going to put them on at the same time. Whoops, I've already trimmed for both sides, so now when I go over to my machine, I can put both of these on at the same time, which I am going to do. I'm going to get everything trimmed up and we'll put this beauty together. There's all my sections cut, trimmed up. I had to look at EQ8 to lay this out. So the way it goes is section A is up here and then it comes straight down. A, B, C, D, and then there's E right here. F and G are over here, H and I are over here, and you want to make sure that your white strips here make like a W. This is the way I kind of see it. Which means they're going to be oriented like this, and then you want your corner pieces to finish out the straight line to the corner. So what we need to do is you can either put all of these together first and then this, or put these together and then you'll have all 5 sections to put together, either from the top to the bottom or however you want to do it. So I'm going to start down here, and I don't think it matters which side we put on first. I am going to put this side on first, mostly because of that seam right there. I just want to cover that seam first. So let's flip it over, and you've got right angles on this side that work together, and our notch on this side lays flat. So I'm going to get this piece on, and I think I'll iron them open. I'll see how that goes. Here's my first 2 pieces. This piece is going to go on exactly the same way as this one. We're going to line up these right angles on my left hand side, and my notch lines up over here. And I did iron it open. All right, you got future carry here for this bottom part. So we have E, F, G, H, I. I had G and I switched when I originally did this. I had to rip it out. So I have them in the right place. It's kind of hard to tell, but this is the actual long edge, and you just want to make sure that your G is oriented in the same direction as your other letters. So now we can put these on. I can put these on correctly and show you how to do it correctly. So down here, our notch will line up, and our notch point ends up over here. So that's how it's going to go on at the bottom. I know I have the rest of this on, but I had put these on wrong, so I don't want to tell you how to do it. I want to tell you how to do it correctly. So then when I come back, we'll be putting the rest of this on, and then it'll be done. All right, there's my bottom piece. So from now on, we just put this together. I'm going to start at the bottom. And my points line up on each side, and I have a feeling that's probably how it's going to be all the way up. So I'm just going to finish this out. I'll let you know if there's something different. I am going to iron these seams open also. All right, there you go. RS12 Linda's Church in the Valley. This is what it looks like. You've gotten future carry in a couple of these in a couple places in this video. So if you noticed when I was putting these together, there was a gap here and I didn't understand what was going on. So when I went to reevaluate what I'd done, I had actually switched these 2 by accident. F and G go together and H and I go together. And then it works. So there we go. Pretty block.
All right, we've finished week 25. Not too hard of a week. Let me know what you did with C6, if you changed it to an applique or if you pieced those little curves in there, because I would love to know how you put it together. And then D10 Battlefield, you met future carry to come back and show you how to resection your foundation paper pieces so you don't have a Y seam. You have Y seams, you have a 4 patch. So other than that, it wasn't really too hard this week. It was kind of fun. We got some beautiful blocks like this L6 Maze of Madness. That is a cool block. That is why we paper piece, to do little things like that. All right, let's fill in the photo quilt over here. We got C6, Ashley's Aura. D10 Battlefield. D10. F3 Snowball. I love seeing these go in here. L6 Maze of Madness. L6. Boy, this bottom part is really getting filled in. And then RS12. Linda's Church in the Valley, I think is what it's called. Yep. All right, that is really cool looking. I'm really happy with how it's turning out. Let me know how it's going for you. Share your blocks on social media with Dear Jane QAL. I'll find them and I'll share them out on my social channels. You can also tag @Canary Quilts when you do that, and I should be able to find it that way also. But anyway, I had a blast doing the blocks this week. I appreciate all of you for sticking around if you have for this long. This is a hard quilt. We got a lot of blocks and we're doing it every week, so I really do appreciate you. And hit the subscribe button, notification bell. We'll have fun here on this quilt and all the other fun stuff we got going on, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!